Hello everybody, here today with another Knife Notes video. Today we have in front of us the SprintRun MidiQ. Now the MidiQ, for those who are aware of the SprintRun lineup, the naming scheme is probably quite apparent. For those who are not, the MidiQ is the mid-sized version of the Quantum model that debuted in 2019. We have since had the Mini Quantum, which debuted just a few years ago. That represented the smallest size in the Quantum lineup. And now we have the MidiQ, which mixes up the naming scheme a little bit, but of course has that same Quantum DNA that everybody loves. Now the MidiQ, being the mid-size model, also has a similar size profile to the Stellar, which we will see in a little bit. It debuted last year at Blade Show 2024. There is a lot of things that we see in the MidiQ from the original Quantum design that I'm really excited to talk about in today's video. However, still retaining that smaller size format that many people love about the Mini Quantum. But anyways, first let's take a look at the specs of this knife. First, starting off with size, again, I mentioned earlier that the knife has a very similar size profile to the Stellar, which means it slots in size-wise between the F95 and the Neon, which we can see here. So again, similar size to the Stellar. If we put up the Astrum here, we can see something just a little bit larger. If I had a 111 to put on top of the Astrum, we would have the entire size range from Shirogorov. You know, the Stellar did exist already, but it is nice to get another, what people kind of call a mid-size option here. If the F95 is considered the full size and the Neon is the small size, this mid-size, a lot of people, you know, the Stellar was quite popular, but some people want something with a little bit more flair. The Persian-esque blade shape of the Quantum does attract a lot of people. However, the full-sized Quantum might be a little bit large for people. The Mini Quantum might be a little too small. The Midi is really that kind of perfect size, a lot of people are saying. Now, taking a look at the length of the knife here, we can see that with the blade open, we have a cutting length of just a little bit over 3 3/4. This kind of really lines up with the F95 and the full-size Quantum as well. I think the F95 is around 4 inches of cutting length. The Quantum, just because of this blade shape here, you get a little bit more than 4 inches. The Stellar is right around 3 3/4. So nice to see that the Quantum, the MidiQ is kind of matching that just a little bit more. With the blade open, the overall handle size is right around 8 1/4. With the handle closed, or sorry, with the blade closed, we are looking at, let's see here, around 4 3/4. Taking a look at the weight of the knife, let's see, the weight of the knife is around 3.58 ounces, which, let's see if we switch to grams here, is just a little bit over 101 ounces. So in terms of weight, again, looking at the full-size titanium F95 and the smaller titanium Neon, falling right in between those weight ranges as well, which of course makes sense since given its size. Taking a look at the blade here, we have a ZDI 1016 done in this wild pattern. Now ZDI is a Zlatinox, which is a Russian Damascus steel. Sergey has actually had a history of working with them for a while, and using some of their steels in some of his older customs. We did see a kind of a hiatus of the material use for quite a number of years, but it's nice to see that Sergey has been looking at some domestic materials for his knives. We've seen this Zlatinox being used in the Astrum SprintRun and also some limited edition knives, such as the Arctic Overkill. And also some limited edition Recon 1 special knives as well. Now, as expected with the SprintRun Custom Division level knives, we have satin flats here. Unfortunately, one thing that I would have really liked to see is the addition of some kind of 3D fuller like we saw on the original production Quantum design. Some of the MidiQs had skeletonized fullers, so pierced fullers that go all the way through, with some milling on the flipper tab as well to match. The handles also had some skeletonization. This is pretty much the same configuration that we see on the Custom Division as well. However, some of the customs do have this, just blade flats only, non-skeletonized handle. So I think Sergey was really going for that kind of very distinct, separate design. Well, maybe not distinctly separate, but, different variations on the different handles that we've seen on the custom MidiQs to differentiate the SprintRun and the Custom Division, something other than just the color. In fact, the Custom Division has kind of blue anodization on the handles. Of course, we see plain titanium with a satin finish here on the SprintRun. But anyways, going back to the blade here, 3.2 millimeter blade stock, so on the thinner end. We do see 3 millimeters on some of the Custom Divisions. However, at this range, when you get to 3.2, it's really hard to even tell. Me looking at this, I almost thought this was 3 myself until I actually measured it. So I'm sure it cuts just like 3 millimeter blade stock. Very nice to see thin blade stock really being in right now with the Shirogoro lineup. One thing that's really nice about this knife here, it being Damascus steel, having those satin flats is really nice because the detent ball running across etched flats really hampers the action. Having satin flats here, you're still getting that smoothness that you would see with the mono steel blade in terms of action, so that's very nice to see. And in fact, if you take a look at the knife at the right angles, you can actually see the pattern, the Damascus pattern, come through the satin flats, which is actually really cool. The jimping, I'm happy to report, is that really nice, tight, older style jimping that we've seen at this point with the Astrum, the Mini Quantum, and now the MidiQ having this, tight jimping again. Not really sure how much longer I can go saying older style versus the newer style wide jimping, but we are still seeing on Neons and F95s, even with generational updates, are having this wider jimping. This is, of course, because, in my opinion, is because we have this nice flat blade spine here, which allows for that wider wider style jimping, which, although is not functional, not very functional, does look nice. With the Astrum right here, the way the blade spine tapers, this is a Persian style blade here. We only have a nice short patch of jimping here. The tight jimping really makes more sense and is more functional as a nice side result of that. Taking a look at the handle here, again, this was one of my biggest complaints with the Mini Quantum, was just how basic the milling felt. Now, in your hand, it had this incredible concave milling that accentuated the thinness of the knife. However, it was just a fairly plain handle to look at. The original Quantum had these beautiful facets, which the MidiQ takes that kind of basic architecture and then cranks up the design elements to 11 here. Again, we get the contouring of the original Quantum, so nice 3D concave milling as a base. But then we get these really nice satin lines here, very interesting kind of, techno sci-fi lines here. We got this nice pocket inside here, which terminates on the full custom and Custom Division MidiQs. This is the start of the skeletonization pocket. So because this one, the SprintRun, is not skeletonized, we just get this nice concave milling here. But you can see it plays with the light very well and accentuates the pivot area as well. Looking in between these satin lines here, we can see, this nice, very wide, flowing, curved milling, which matches the lines of the handle. And inside the pocket here, we can even see alternating, very coarse and then fine milling, coarse, fine, and a diagonal pattern across the pocket on the inside. Really, really great. It's not overwhelming, but with that satin finish here adds a nice pop to the handle, which really plays with the light beautifully. Taking a look at the back here, this is one of my favorite features of the original Quantum design, how the Sugarov logo is inset on the, the middle portion of the knife, which is its lowest point, and so it cuts in with this V shape here on the chamfer on the bottom part of the handle. Really nice to see that there. Something that, again, we didn't get with the Mini Quantum because the design was so flat on the handle. Really love that feature and really happy to see that here on the MidiQ as well. Of course, we have the new 3D pivot that lines up with the handle here. It is clocked. The 3D pivot is one of my favorite pivot designs ever since we've gone from small pivot screws to larger ones to now 3D. Really nice to see Sergey just iterate on really small things like the pivot screw, something that you wouldn't really think about. Taking a look here at the lock side, this is indeed a frame lock, just like the original Quantum. The Mini Quantum was an inset liner, just like the Astrum and the Stellar. Personally, I prefer the simplicity of frame locks. I am actually left-handed, so when I hold the knife, I am not actually putting pressure on the lock bar in such a way that would prevent me from, unlocking the knife or putting extra tension on the knife when flipping it open, since I put my thumb here. But that's just something a lefty experiences. Yeah, for most people, they don't really have problems in the size range in terms of putting their fingers on the lock bar when trying to open the knife. The Mini is a little bit more of a problem. Makes sense to have that liner lock in that size range, but there is another reason, which I'll explain a little bit later, why Sergey, I think, moved to the frame lock design for this knife. But even without that reason, which I'll explain in a little bit, I really love the Quantum, the way the lock bar cutout plays with the clip. You can see here that we have these lines that continue with that dip here. You can see on the show side, it kind of just looks like aesthetics, kind of a nice, mix up of that satin line here. But you can see really how it plays into the design of the kind of relief cut, lock bar relief cut. You can see the blade showing here. It lines up perfectly with that relief, that little dip in the satin top line. The bottom line here, how the lock bar insert screw, the milling goes all the way through and it intersects with that line. Just the Quantum is, even though it really took some time to warm up to the Quantum, so many design features have been well thought out aesthetically on this knife, which when you put it all together, definitely is something that's greater than the sum of its parts. Taking a look at the clip here, again, as I mentioned earlier, the way that the lock bar relief plays with the clip on the original Quantum that just had a normal clip, this lock bar relief allows you to get your pants material underneath here because of the clip placement. The MidiQ, however, has the RCS rotating clip system. However, I still love how well integrated that looks, the clip looks in relation to the handle. A quick reminder for those who have not seen the Mini Quantum videos that I've done, the rotating clip system is basically a spring-loaded clip that has a detent for retention, this large detent ball here. How this is supposed to work and the purpose of it is, say you had dress slacks or you had, really thick jeans with a really thick hem at the top. For a lot of clips, especially ones with strong retention, it's really hard to get it over the pants material, or in the case of dress slacks, you don't want to damage that hem over time with you inserting and removing the knife. So you can see this nice curved pad here. You can go ahead and push down on the clip, insert it into the pants, and then once the clip has cleared the hem, you can let go and the clip will spring back into place, giving you very solid retention here. Now, this is again something that we first saw on the Mini Quantum in its first iteration. I think the MidiQ does it better in quite a few different ways. First of all, we just have a proportionally longer clip because the knife is proportionally larger as well. That allows you to get a little bit more leverage on the pad here at the very end of the clip. The clip design as well, I think, is much more integrated into the knife design. Now, I don't have my Mini Quantum SR here to show you, but the Mini Quantum clip really seemed like an afterthought. It didn't seem very well integrated into the handle of the knife, just in terms of the shape and the placement. The MidiQ really retains the same overall clip profile as the full-size Quantum, but actually looks even better with these nice curves, the chamfering here, how it's integrated at the end. Really love it. Again, just cranking the original Quantum design up to 11, even on the clip here. Additionally, because of the inset liner lock on the Mini Quantum, Sergey actually took it upon itself to simplify the design and have the tail end of the liner, which interfaces with the lock, the blade, also have a leaf spring that acts on the rotating clip. Now, how the rotating clip works is, of course, there is a screw here, blind screw, which secures the clip. We also have a pin sticking out right ahead of the screw, and that pin that sticks into the handle interacts with a leaf spring on the inside of the handle. Now, because the Mini Quantum, was a inset liner, having that integrated leaf spring into the liner was very nice from a part simplification perspective. However, it being the first iteration, after extensive use, and Sergey has admitted to this himself, the leaf string would break off, or, if the knife steel, the liner steel was improperly tempered, the leaf spring was prone to breaking. Actually have known this to happen to a friend of mine. You had to have the entire liner piece be replaced because it was all one piece in the knife. This also meant having to fit the liner lock interface to the blade, a lot of additional work. Because this is a frame lock, we now just have a separate leaf spring piece or plate that is then screwed into the knife. You can actually see this is the bottom part of the screw. And this part is very easily replaceable. The tolerances are not nearly as strict on a piece such as this, and it's a much smaller piece to machine as well, so much less complex. Overall, some people really like that inset liner design, but again, I'm a really big fan of the simplicity of frame locks, and I also really like that this piece is very easily replaceable, perhaps maybe even at the user level if you have the correct tools to get into the knife. Again, this being a custom division level knife has that custom division inverted screw here. But again, this represents a very nice improvement in terms of the rotating clip system, I think, both in terms of the aesthetics, the functionality of the rotating clip, and also that separate liner piece. Now, does this mean that we won't see this in an inset lock knife? Possibly not. I'm very curious to see on the next inset liner lock knife, if it does have the RCS system, whether that clip spring will be a separate piece or not. But regardless, for now, we have this very cool design here that also looks the part, which is really nice. Now, moving on to the backspacer, really, this is probably the only part that looks exactly the same as the Quantum, just scaled down. Scaled down here. The spine of the handle has very similar contouring to all of the Quantums and all of the sizes here, which means that it has these nice non-straight lines. You can see it tapers up and then tapers back out. At the point where we have that additional milling here to get more leverage, more hang time on the flipper tab, that is also curved as well. Something that we really only see on the Quantum. You can see on like a Neon here, it is straight parallel to the handle lines. Same thing with the F95 as well. So that's another nice, unique point for the Quantum. Having such different lines from the rest of the Shurogrov lineup, we also see that extend to the handle spine area. Now, a little bit hard to see here, but we do have extensive milling on the inside of the handle here. See if we can't get the light just right, but really, really deep pockets, multi-tiered level milling on the inside with the same kind of flowing lines that we see on the outside of the handle, on the inside of the milling pockets as well. Really, this is probably one of the most advanced in terms of the curves, the lines on the inside of the internal milling. One of my favorite internally milled designs here. So just a shame that you can't see it without opening up the knife. In terms of Easter eggs, really not too much to show here. The knife does have this very interesting 3D screw that's kind of shaped like a dome at the top here. That is actually because of the way that the handle interacts with the blade, just the tolerance here. Sergey actually needed to make the top of the blade, or the top of the screw, like a cone, so that it wouldn't interact with the blade, it wouldn't touch the blade. If he made it a flat top, because of how thin the handles are at the end here and the thickness of the screw required, if that screw head was just completely straight, it would actually protrude outwards and then potentially hit the blade as the blade is closing. So very interesting to see that. Never seen a 3D screw head from the Sugargrove workshop, but after I saw that, I just had to ask Sergey and explain what was going on there. Lastly, the pivot system, SRRBS, single row roller bearings with steel washer underlays. Really nothing too crazy to expect there, that being a custom division level knife. We have the logo here in its typical area. Nothing much to report there. The action is quite smooth, and the blade is, centered as you would expect from a custom division knife or just any Sugargrove knife. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the MidiQ. This one ran a lot longer. Again, really had to extol the virtues of this handle design. I really love it. I do wish, again, it did have that fuller, if not a skeletonized fuller that we see on the custom division, just to match up. I think the quantum design is really missing without that. But the new enhancements to the RCS system, it now looking like a normal clip, and again, man, the handle design really makes this a worthy piece. If you're looking out for it, the custom divisions now being a 100-piece run, while I do like the silver, the plain tie look of the handle on the SprintRun, the skeletonization on the custom division is just really cool to have as well. And I'm really hoping that we will see a production model of this. That is one thing I want to talk about. The mini quantum, man, that thing, I really wonder if we'll ever see a production model of that. We now have had the Astrum production model, where the Astrum Custom came out much after the Mini Quantum. So it seems that Sergey has pretty much skipped the production model for the Mini Quantum, but I really see the MidiQ as a strong contender. So I really hope that we do see a production version of this at some point in the future. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, a lot of stuff to talk about. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.